Part 1. The Street. The incense burned short. That was the first sign. Wei Bo-fan pinched the stub between two fingers and set it in the brass cup without looking up. The smoke curled left. It always curled left on bad days. Not because the wind said so, but because the world leaned that way when something was about to arrive uninvited. He had been sitting at the corner of Yuhua Lane for 6 years. Before that, a different corner. Before that, a doorway that belonged to a noodle shop whose owner had not minded much until she did. The folding table was the same through all of it. Wood laminate peeling at the left edge. A crack along the center he had filled twice with rice putty. On it, the brass cup, 3 sticks of ash, a compass so old the cardinal directions had faded to suggestions, and a leather roll of tools his master had given him on the day he stopped being a student. He was 24. He looked 32. He was often told this by people who thought it was an insult. The morning had been ordinary. A woman asked about her mother's health. An old man wanted to know if he should sell the apartment. A teenager, embarrassed, hunched into her collar and asked in a whisper about a boy in her class. Bo-fan read each of them the way his master had taught him, not through the compass alone, but through the small signals a body makes when it is frightened of the truth. The way the hands go still, the way the eyes move right before a lie. He charged what they could afford. The woman, nothing, because her coat had a missing button and she'd sewn the gap with the wrong thread, hurriedly, which meant she'd been sleeping badly. The old man, 40 yuan, which was less than the bus fare he'd spent getting there, so they were even. The teenager, he waved her off. He remembered being 17 and afraid of a question that felt enormous and was actually just loneliness wearing a costume. The incense burned short. He reset the compass. They arrived at noon.
He heard the car before he saw it, the specific quiet of an engine that costs more than most people make in a decade. The kind of quiet that is not silence, but the deliberate absence of imperfection. He did not look up. 2 pairs of shoes appeared at the edge of his mat. He read the shoes before he read the people. Left pair, Italian leather, a scuff on the toe from a recent trip where the luggage was handled carelessly. Right pair, heels, new, bought within the last month, the woman inside them not yet comfortable with their height. Then a third pair, sneakers, expensive, worn with calculated casualness. He set down his compass. The woman in the heels said, "Bo." She stopped. He watched her feet shift. One heel lifted slightly, weight redistributing. She had not expected to find him like this. He looked up then. The woman was in her late 40s, dressed the way wealthy women dress when they want to seem approachable. Cashmere, understated, a single piece of jewelry at the throat.
Her face had the particular tension of someone who has been practicing an expression for a long time. In this case, the expression of a mother who is not to blame. The man beside her was older. His face was harder to read. He had learned at some point to make it expensive to read him. Behind them both stood a young man about Bo-fan's age. Something about the young man's posture, the ease of it, the way he stood slightly in front of the couple, slightly between them and Bo-fan, told Bo-fan everything he needed to know before a word was exchanged. He returned his gaze to his mat. He rolled the compass between his fingers. The woman said, "Your name is Wei Bo-fan." He said nothing. "We've been looking for you for—" "You've been looking for me for 3 months," he said. "Before that, you hired a firm that looked for 11 months. Before that, you did not look." He let the compass go still. What changed? Silence. The young man behind the couple, The one with the easy posture laughed. It was a small laugh, the kind that says, "I was right about you." "A fortune teller," the young man said. Bofan looked at him then, just once. The young man's eyes had a particular quality, the quality of someone who has spent a long time being the most important person in every room, and has begun to mistake that position for a permanent condition. The woman put her hand on the older man's arm. He did not move. She said, "We are your parents." Bofan folded his leather roll closed. "If my prediction is wrong," he said, "there is no charge." He looked at the woman directly. "Mrs. Chung, would you like to know your fortune?" Her face collapsed, not into grief, into something older than grief. "Bofan," she said, "I'm your mother. Come home with us." He looked at her. He felt the familiar settling in his chest, the stillness that came before he said something true. She was surrounded by dark chi. It moved around her the way smoke moves around an open window. Not violent, but certain. The kind that accumulates slowly over years until one day the body just agrees with it. She would not see next winter. He closed his eyes. He opened them. He began to gather his tools. "I need to pack some things," he said. "My room is a mess. Wait outside." She followed him inside anyway. She was that kind of woman. He had expected it, so he was not bothered by it. What bothered him was the sound of the others behind her, the careful footsteps of people who had never been anywhere like this and were now trying very hard not to say so. The alley that led to his room was narrow and smelled of cabbage and rust and the particular damp of concrete that never quite dries. Somewhere behind him, one of the Cheng family made a sound. Not a word, just the involuntary vocal response of a body encountering an environment it had not been prepared for. He pushed open his door. One room. A cot, folded against the wall during the day. A table. An electric fan so old the blades had developed a wobble that was now almost musical. A shelf of books, organized not by subject, but by which ones had saved his life during which winters. A coat hook with nothing on it. He opened the wardrobe. The young man, he'd heard the couple call him Feng, spoke from the doorway. "Why bother with those? They're practically rags. Buy new." Bofan took out a shirt, checked the collar for wear, set it on the cot. Feng made a sound of distaste. Then the alley filled. He heard them before he saw them. Auntie Zou's slippers on the concrete. Old man Gao's cough. The high-pitched, rapid-fire Mandarin of the landlord's wife, who had never liked him but had decided, apparently, that he was hers to dislike and therefore hers to defend. They filled the doorway. They filled the alley. They flowed around the Cheng family like water around stones, and they looked at the Chengs the way people look at something that requires an accounting.
Auntie Zhu pushed to the front. She was 70, small, with the kind of certainty that only comes from having outlived several decades of people who told her she was wrong. "You look rich," she said to the Chengs. It was not a compliment. Mrs. Cheng blinked. "He's been here since he was 16, Auntie Zhu said. "You know what he ate when he came here? Nothing. You know who fed him? We did. You know who set his arm when it was broken? Not a hospital. The man at the corner who used to be a medic before whatever happened to him happened to him." She paused. "You are very welcome." Old man Gao appeared with a bundle wrapped in cloth. He handed it to Bofan without ceremony. Bofan took it and understood, without opening it, that it was food. The landlord's wife appeared with 3 shirts folded with military precision. "New," she said. "I bought them 2 years ago for my nephew. He went to Guangzhou. These are your size." Then everyone was handing him things.
He stood in the middle of it, his arms filled. He did not know what to do with his face, which he suspected was doing something embarrassing, so he kept it still and focused on the process of accepting what was given. The Chung family watched from the doorway. Feng looked at the ceiling. Mrs. Chung was crying. Mr. Chung, the older man, had the expression of someone who has been handed a bill they did not expect and are currently deciding whether they can afford to be upset about it. Auntie Zhou walked them to the car. She did not ask permission. She stood at the window after Bo Fan climbed into the back seat. She looked at the Chung family the way she looked at everything, as a situation that required her specific intervention. "Take care of this child," she said. "He has suffered." "We will," Mrs. Chung said. Auntie Zhou's expression suggested she had noted the answer and was withholding her verdict. The car pulled into traffic. Bo Fan held his small yellow bag on his lap. It contained his compass, his tools, his leather roll, and the 2 letters his master had given him on the day he said, "Go and find what you came from, even if you don't want it." From the front seat, Feng spoke without turning around. "You're seriously bringing all that? Those tools?" He said tools the way people say garbage. "My parents' house has feng shui consultants, professional ones, with certifications." Bo Fan looked out the window. "Certified by whom?" he said. Feng turned slightly, just slightly. "There's not much room," Feng continued. "The guest suite needs some renovation. You'll probably be in one of the smaller rooms for a while, 1st floor. "Where do you sleep?" Bo Fan said. "3rd floor. I have the east suite." "Are the bedrooms on the 2nd floor occupied?" Feng paused. "My sisters are on the 2nd floor, yes. Why?" "I was asking where the rooms are," Bo Fan said. "That's all." Feng studied him in the rearview mirror. Bo Fan returned the study, unhurried, until Feng looked away. "The qi around that one," Bo Fan thought, "is very busy. It moves like a man who never stops running because he's afraid of what catches up when he stops." He did not say this. He looked out the window and counted the intersections until the city changed character and the old streets gave way to walls and the walls gave way to gates. Part 2. The House. The Cheng residence was the kind of house that had been designed to make you feel small. Not in a cruel way, in a technical way. The ceilings were high because high ceilings signal prosperity. The entrance hall was wide because width signals authority. The art was hung at a height that required looking up. All of it deliberate, all of it invisible to anyone who had grown up inside it. Bo Fan stood in the entrance hall and looked at the art. Then he looked at where the housekeeper had gone with his bags. Then he looked at where the family had gone, into a side room, apparently without him. He stood in the entrance hall with his yellow bag and no instruction. He was not surprised. He walked himself through the house until he found the room he'd been told to take. 1st floor, east side, a window that faced a decorative wall. Clean. Spare. The kind of room that says you are temporary in a very polite way. He set his yellow bag on the bed. He sat on the floor, opened the leather roll, ran his thumb along the compass bearing. The house felt unbalanced, not in a superstitious sense, in the sense of a system that had been organized around an assumption that was no longer true, and no one had yet reorganized it. The assumption was, Feng Su-ji, for that was his name, the one given to Bo Fan's biological position, was the center. You could feel it in which rooms got the good light, which chair at the dining table was positioned for the best view, which member of the household schedule everyone else's schedule bent around. 24 years of that assumption had worn grooves into the floor. Bo Fan was not angry about it. You cannot be angry at gravity for falling the way it always has. He put the compass away. Someone knocked. He opened the door. A young woman, early 20s, the posture of someone who had learned to be watchful, stood holding a folder. "I'm May," she said, "the household coordinator. Your room should have everything—" She stopped, assessed him, assessed the yellow bag on the bed, the bare floor, the fact that he was sitting cross-legged on the carpet instead of on the chair. "Do you need anything?" "No." She wrote something in the folder. "Dinner is at 7. "Thank you." She left. He noticed, when she left, that she had not locked his door. This was a small thing.
He noticed it because, at 3 other houses he had been in, briefly between leaving one situation and finding another, the doors had been locked. He noted May in the back of his mind, not as an ally, too early, but as a door that was not locked. Dinner was a performance. The Chung family took their places with the efficiency of people who had eaten at this table thousands of times. Mrs. Chung at one end, Mr. Chung at the other. The eldest daughter, Lan, he would learn later, though she asked him to call her Lan, to the right of her father. The younger daughter, Mei Shi, to the left of her mother. Feng Suji sat directly across from Bofan's place. The seat they had given Bofan was between Suji and the wall. He sat. Suji picked up his chopsticks, made a show of examining them, set them down with a small sigh of satisfaction, the sigh of someone communicating to anyone watching that their chopsticks were satisfactory, and by extension everything in their life was satisfactory. "Older brother," Suji said. He said it correctly, with the right tone, the right posture of the head. He had been practicing it, you could tell. Bofan said nothing. "I know this is strange," Suji continued. "I know it's a lot to process, but we're family now. I want us to start fresh." He smiled. The smile was excellent. Bofan wondered how many mirrors he'd practiced it in. Lan, the older daughter, looked at Bofan. "He's been really looking forward to you coming home." Bofan looked at Suji. Suji had switched one of Bofan's birth parents' babies with his own mother's baby. He did not know that Bofan knew this yet. He was being generous the way people are generous when they believe they still hold all the cards. Bofan looked at his rice. He ate. Lan cleared her throat. "Bofan, your brother said hello." "I heard." "It would be nice if—" "I heard him," Bofan said. I chose not to answer. The table went quiet in the particular way that tables go quiet when something has been said that the family will discuss later, privately, in pairs. Mei Shi, the younger sister, 18, who had said almost nothing since he arrived, made a small sound that was not quite a laugh and immediately covered it with her napkin. He noted that too. Suji's smile, which had been on standby, surfaced again. "That's okay. This is a process. We have time." Under the table, Bofan's left hand rested on his thigh. The arm was fine now, had been for years. His master had found him a bone setter, had paid for it, had spent 3 months teaching Bofan to pour tea with the right arm while the left healed. But there were days when the cold got into the old break and settled there like a memory that would not be evicted. Tonight, the cold was in his arm. He rolled up his sleeve, looked at the thin, pale lines along the forearm, not the bone, but older work, from the time before his master, when he had been 11 years old and on a street, and a man had tried to make a specific argument about what an 11-year-old's broken arm was worth to a passerby. He pushed his sleeve back down. No one at the table had seen. He did not plan to show them. But he noted the cold in his arm, the way you note anything that is true and inconvenient, because noting things was the first step to knowing them, and knowing things was the only system he had ever trusted. After dinner, Mei Shi appeared in the hallway. She had been crying. She had not quite finished crying before she came out. There was still the evidence of it around her eyes,
but she had pulled herself together enough to try. She held out a tangerine. Just held it out, said nothing. He took it. She seemed about to speak, then decided against it, walked back toward the stairs. Then halfway, turned.
"Don't go to bed hungry," she said. "I always keep crackers. Room 204, if you need something." She went upstairs. He stood in the hallway with the tangerine. Door that is not locked, he thought. He went to his room and ate the tangerine on the floor. Part 3. The System. His master's name was Shen Chui-wei, and he was the only person who had ever explained to Bo-fan what Bo-fan was. This had happened in the kitchen of the small house in Tongshen where Shen lived. It was winter. The heat came from a single burner on the stove that Shen kept on at a low flame for hours, nursing a pot of congee and filling the kitchen with the kind of warmth that did not so much heat a room as make the cold bearable. Bo-fan was 12. He had been with Shen for a year. He had learned in that year to read the compass, to identify the 8 trigrams, to tell the difference between qi that was merely obstructed and qi that was genuinely wrong.
He had also learned to make kanji, to repair sandals, and to lose at chess in a way that did not insult his opponent. He had not learned what he was. On that winter night, Shen set 2 bowls on the table and sat across from him and said, "There are people who can see what is about to happen, not the far future, the near one, the space of 3 steps ahead. And there are people who cannot." Bo-fan ate his kanji. "Which are you?" Shen said. It was not a question. "I don't know," Bo-fan said. "Yes, you do." He did. He had known since he was 7. He had known in the way that you know anything you have kept perfectly still inside yourself for years, not because you were afraid of it, but because you had no one to say it to. "Then you know that seeing is not the same as changing," Shen said. "I know." "And you know that the seeing has rules." "Tell me." Shen put down his chopsticks. "You will see clearly for anyone who is not you. Your own path is dark to you, not clouded, dark, a wall. You can see where the path ends. You cannot see how it gets there. Why? Because you have skin in the game." Shen smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man passing down information he wished he'd gotten earlier. The seeing works when you have no stake. When you care, it goes silent. Your fear fills the space. Bo-fan thought about this. "And if I try anyway?" "You'll see what you want to see, which is worse than nothing." He remembered that conversation now, standing in the Chang house in the dark at 3 in the morning, because the seeing had just gone silent, and the silence had woken him up. He sat on the floor, opened the compass. He had seen when Mei-shi handed him the tangerine that she was planning to go somewhere that weekend. Mountains, a group of friends. The qi around her left shoulder was strained in the way it gets when the body is about to absorb a shock.
He had also seen, in the shadow behind the front door when they arrived, something he had been turning over since. An old mark, the kind that accumulates around a family that has been orbiting a loss for a long time. There was a dead child in this house. Not recent, years ago. Long enough that the family no longer said her name easily, which meant they still said it inside. He did not know this from the qi alone. He knew it the way his master had taught him, from the aggregate of small signals that a household leaves when it has been in mourning for a very long time. The missing chair at the table that no one placed a bag on. The way Mrs. Chung's hands moved when anyone said a diminutive maternal word. A photograph in the hall, just out of normal eye line, placed where it was seen only by someone looking for it. A small girl. Bo-fan had seen the frame and looked away. He closed the compass. He did not sleep for a long time after that. In the morning, Mr. Cheng called him into the study. Beaufan sat in the chair across from the desk and looked at the room. Books organized by height, not subject. A single photograph on the desk, turned away from visitors. A pen in its stand that was never used, too expensive to use, probably a gift. Mr. Cheng sat. He had the manner of a man who conducted every conversation from a position of authority and had forgotten that other positions existed. "You'll need new clothes," he said, "for school. We're enrolling you in the spring semester." "I'm not going to school." Mr. Cheng paused. "You've never attended formal—" "I know what I know," Beaufan said. "I've read your books. I've read more than your books. School will teach me to sit in a chair and wait for someone to give me permission. I already know how to sit in a chair. I don't need permission." A beat. Then, "What you need is credentials, connections."
"The family name will open doors, but—" "The family name is new to me," Beaufan said, "and I'm not sure I'm keeping it." Mr. Cheng looked at him for a long time. Then he picked up the unused pen, set it back down. "This house has certain expectations," he said. "We're willing to be patient, but Suji has built a life here. He has relationships with our business partners, our social circle. He represents—" "Tell me about your daughter," Beaufan said. Mr. Cheng's face changed. Not much, but enough. "Which daughter?" he said carefully. "The one in the frame in the hall," Beaufan said. "The one whose chair no one sits in." Mr. Cheng stood up. "Get out," he said, quietly. Beaufan stood. "I'll leave the door open," he said, and did. Part 4. Mei Shi. She was standing outside the study door when he came out. She was not eavesdropping. She had been walking past, or perhaps she had been standing there for reasons of her own. She had earphones around her neck and a half-eaten pear in her hand, and the expression of someone caught mid-thought. "Hi," she said. He nodded and walked toward the stairs. "Hey," she fell into step beside him. "Are you okay?" He considered the question. "Are you asking because you want to know, or because someone told you to check on me?" She made a face. "I asked because I wanted to know." He looked at her. She looked back. She had her mother's eyes, but her face was arranged differently, open in a way Mrs. Chung's face no longer was. The way young faces are before the world spends enough time on them. "I'm fine," he said. "Dad's dramatic," she said. "He does that. Gets very intense about things, and then acts like nothing happened 20 minutes later." She took a bite of the pear, spoke around it. "He actually liked you, I think. He just doesn't have a gear between formal and gone." "You were listening?" "A little." No apology in it. He appreciated that. He stopped on the landing. "This Saturday, what are your plans?" She blinked. "How did you—" She stopped, reassembled. "My friends and I are hiking, Shangcheng Peak. We've been planning it for months." "How many of you?" "4. Why? Do you want to come?" He looked at her arm, left shoulder. The strain was there, clear as text. "Don't go," he said. She laughed, not meanly, surprised. "That's it? Just don't go?" "The chi around your left side is wrong. Something is going to happen on the mountain road." She studied him. He did not modify his expression to make it easier. "Suji said you do fortune-telling," she said. "I didn't know what that meant until you just said that." "Now you know." "And you're serious?" "Yes." She ate the rest of the pear in silence. They stood on the landing. Below them, the house continued its expensive quiet. "Okay," she said. "I'll think about it." It was not yes, but it was not no. He had learned, from years on the street, that "I'll think about it" from someone who was actually listening was worth more than an immediate yes from someone who was not. He went to his room. She went the other way. 3 days later, Mei knocked on his door at 9 in the evening. She was holding a bag from a pharmacy. She set it on his table without speaking. He looked at the contents. 2 boxes of headache medication, a tube of something, a packet of throat lozenges. "You've been coughing," she said. "I could hear it through the wall." He had been coughing. The room was cold and the window did not seal properly. He had not mentioned it. "How much?" he said. "Don't be weird about it." Mei Shi. 83 yuan. She sat cross-legged on his floor without being invited. "Can I ask you something?" "You're already here." "The thing you do. The qi reading people." She looked at his hands. "Did you learn it, or were you born with it?" He sat on the cot. "Both. You learn the technique. But the thing underneath, the noticing, you're either born with it or you're not. What does it feel like when you see something?" He thought. "Like information arriving before you were ready for it. Like the answer to a question you haven't asked yet." She was quiet. Then, "Do you see things about yourself?" "No." "That must be strange." "It's the only way I've ever been," he said. "I don't know what it would feel like to see my own future." She nodded slowly. Then she looked at the shelf of books. The way she looked, taking inventory, not performing interest, told him she actually read. "You have the Platform Sutra," she said. "My master gave it to me. I've been trying to get through it for 2 years. She paused. "What part did you actually understand?" "None of it," he said. "I just carry it." She laughed. It was the first real laugh he'd heard in this house. He did not say this, but the cold in his arm, which had been persistent for days, went away for a little while. Part 5. The First Departure. A week after the pharmacy bag, Suji did something Bofan had seen coming for 3 days. Mei Shi's phone beeped while they were in the garden. She had been showing him the koi pond, which he found interesting not for aesthetic reasons, but because the health of the koi was a useful indicator of the state of the household's water element qi. She picked up her phone, read something, and her face changed. "My friend Tao says the mountain road is closed this weekend," she said. "Some kind of landslide." She looked up. "There was a bus on that road. 5 people are in the hospital." She looked at him. He looked at the fish. "You knew," she said. "I knew something would happen on the mountain road. I didn't know exactly what." She sat on the stone bench beside the pond for a long time. Then she said, "Thank you. I told you not to go." "I know. I should have believed you the first time." She paused. "Actually, I did believe you. That's why I canceled." A beat. "I just wanted to say it properly. Thank you." He nodded. They watched the fish. That evening, Suji found him in the library. Suji had not been subtle about his campaign to separate Bofan from the rest of the family. Bofan had watched it with the detached interest of a man watching a chess game he wasn't playing. Suji was clever enough. He positioned himself as mediator, as interpreter, as the one who understood both sides. He manufactured small conflicts and appeared to resolve them. He planted seeds of doubt in the way people plant seeds, quietly, without announcement, and then pretended to be surprised when things grew. He had told Mr. Cheng that Bofan's superstitions were concerning. He had told Mrs. Cheng that Bofan seemed distant. He had told Lan that Bofan's refusal to address anyone as family was a sign that he wasn't ready to integrate. None of it was false, exactly. That was the craft of it. Tonight he came into the library and closed the door and looked at Bofan with the expression of a man who had decided to be sincere. "I want to apologize," Suji said, "for how I've behaved. I know I haven't been welcoming." Bofan looked up from his book. "The truth is," Suji continued, "I'm scared. You're the person whose place I took. Not on purpose, but still. I understand if you resent me." He sat across from Bofan. His posture was open, his hands were loose. He had practiced this scene, or something like it, and he was good at it. Bofan looked at him. The chi around Suji was the busiest he had seen in years. Not malevolent, frightened. The chi of a man who had built an entire life on a foundation he'd just been told was sand and was scrambling. "You're worried about the mountain trip," Suji said. "Which one?" Suji blinked. "Your sister didn't go," Bofan said. "So I'm not worried about anything. But if she had gone, she didn't. The family is talking about your methods. Dad thinks—" "What Suji wants to say," Bofan said, setting his book down, "is that he sent a message from Mei Shi's phone while she was in the shower 3 days ago, to her hiking friends, saying she had changed her mind and was going after all." Suji went very still. "And then he deleted my message from her phone, the one I sent that morning telling her to stay home." Bofan's voice remained level. "Which is why Mei Shi almost went. She thought she hadn't received anything from me. The bus on the road carried 5 people and a driver. The driver lost a leg." The room was very quiet. "I'm not here to have this conversation," Bofan said. He picked his book back up. "If you want to have a different one, come back when you've decided which version of yourself you are." Suji stood. His hands were no longer loose. His face had done something complex that he didn't quite manage to hide. "I grew up here," Suji said. His voice was low, not angry, something worse, honest. "I've been their son for 23 years. I held this family together when things were bad. When they lost—" He stopped. "I love this family. Whatever I am to them biologically, I love them. That's real. You can't take that away with a compass and some smoke." He left. Bofan sat for a long time. He's not wrong, he thought. That's the problem. He's not entirely wrong. What Suji had built, however it was built, whatever he had taken to build it, it was real. The Chungs were a family that had suffered, and Suji had been inside the suffering with them. You could not discount that. But he had doctored Mei Shi's phone. He had risked her life, even if he hadn't thought of it that way, to tighten his own position. And that was the thing Bofan could not unknot. He was still thinking about it when Mr. Chung came to the library door. "I've heard that you've been speaking about things that don't concern you," Mr. Chung said. "The practices you insist on, the claims you make. I won't have it. If you want to stay in this house, those tools go." "The tools are mine," Bofan said. "Not under my roof." Bofan set his book on the table. He stood. He looked at Mr. Chung, at the careful, expensive anger of a man who was not wrong exactly about his right to his own household, but was wrong about everything that mattered. "Before I decide," Bofan said, "I'll tell you one thing, free of charge. I'm not interested in— The man running the Shenyang project has taken 3 million and is on a train to Harbin. If you reach out to his second-in-command tonight, the woman, not the man, You can pause the contract before tomorrow morning. Otherwise, the workers file a collective complaint Monday, and the whole site is frozen until spring. He picked up his tools. He went to his room. He packed a bag. Part 6. The Hotel. The hotel room smelled of synthetic lavender and sealed air. He set his bag on the chair and did not unpack. He sat on the edge of the bed and opened his leather roll and counted his tools. Compass, 3 incense stubs, the small bell, bronze, cracked on one side, the only thing his master had kept from his own master. The paper seals, half used. The bound notebook, 3/4 full. He was not afraid of being alone. He had been alone for most of his life. He was competent at it in the way that you become competent at anything you practice for 12 years. But he sat with the but for a while. The cold was in his arm again. He lay on the hotel bed in the dark and thought about Meishi and the pharmacy bag. He thought about Lan, the eldest daughter, who had not once taken sides, but who had, the previous afternoon, while passing him in the hall, pressed a folded note into his hand without comment. The note said, "Your room is too cold.
I told housekeeping to bring a space heater." "They're slow. I'll follow up." She had not waited for his thanks. She had already been walking. He thought about Mrs. Chang at the door of the car the day they arrived, how she'd said, "Come home," and meant it, even though she did not know him. The gap between the meaning and the meaning's object. He thought about what Suji had said. "I love this family." The seeing went quiet when you cared. His own future was dark to him. He did not know if that meant there was no future to see, or simply that the darkness extended further than most. Shen had never fully answered that question. Shen had a talent for leaving the questions he couldn't answer in a form that looked like wisdom. He thought about the longevity lock. He had found it in Suji's room by accident, not snooping, but because he had been asked by the housekeeper to deliver something, and the door had been ajar, and the particular quality of the qi inside the room had stopped him in the doorway. Wrong. Not evil. Displaced. The lock had been in the drawer. He'd recognized it immediately. Not because he'd seen it before, because he'd seen the space left by its absence. The narrow depression in the photograph of the dead girl, where a chain had pressed against her neck for years. He'd taken it. He'd sat with the question of what to do with it for 3 days. He was sitting with it now. His phone showed 7 messages from Meishi, 2 from Lan, none from anyone else. He set it face down. At 2 in the morning, the door of the hotel room was knocked on. He said nothing. He had not been asleep. The knocking continued, then stopped. Then, from the hall, "Bo-fan, it's Mei, the household coordinator." "I know you're awake. I can see the light under the door." A pause. "I'm not here officially. I live 3 blocks from here and I walked by, and I don't know why I came up, but I'm here." He opened the door. She was in a coat over what appeared to be pajamas. She had a thermos. "Tea," she said. "My grandmother's recipe. For cold rooms." He stepped back, let her in. She set the thermos on the table, looked around the room with the efficient assessment of someone whose job was to notice what was missing. "This room is depressing," she said. "Most rooms are." She sat in the chair, on top of his bag, which she acknowledged with a glance and then ignored. "The family is—" she started. "Mrs. Chung is not doing well. Not because of you specifically. She hasn't been doing well for years. But you being here and then not being here has disrupted something. Opened something." She looked at her hands. "I've worked there for 4 years. I've never seen Mr. Chang check his email past 9 p.m. He checked it tonight? He checked it at midnight, called someone in Shenyang, then called someone else." She looked at him. "The second in command on the project is a woman named Hu Ru. She's been running the actual work for 6 months. Mr. Chang got her on the phone in 40 minutes. Contract is paused. The man who took the money..." She stopped. "How did you know?" "The newspaper." "Which part?" "There was an article 2 weeks ago about delayed permits on the Shenyang site. That kind of delay happens when someone is skimming procurement. The article named the project head. His face had a certain quality." "What quality?" "The quality of a face that has made a decision it hasn't told anyone about yet." May was quiet. She poured tea into the thermos cap and handed it to him. "You should come back," she said. "I was asked to leave."
"You were asked to leave by a man who just spent his midnight saving 3 million yuan because of information you gave him." She held his gaze. "That's not nothing." "Meishi almost died," he said, "on that mountain road." "Yes. And Suji." "Yes. And the lock." "Bo Fun." Her voice was quiet. "I know about the lock. I've worked in that house for 4 years. I know where everything is, and I know what everything means." She paused. "I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I know you didn't take it to hurt anyone." He held the thermos cap. The tea was hot enough to feel through the metal. "She doesn't trust you yet," he thought, "but she gave you hot tea at 2 in the morning, which is the same thing." "Tell Mrs. Chung," he said, "that I'll come back in the morning." May stood, buttoned her coat. "Tell her yourself," she said. "She's in the car outside." He looked at her. "She followed me," May said, with a precision that suggested she had expected exactly this and had made peace with it. "She follows me sometimes, when she's worried about the house." A pause. "She says she's checking on her investment. What she's actually doing is checking on the people who live there." He went to the window, looked down. In the street below, a car sat with its headlights off. "She didn't knock," he said. "She was afraid you wouldn't open the door." He looked at the car for a long time. Then he went downstairs. Part 7. The Lock. He did not go to the car. He stood on the sidewalk in the cold until the car door opened. Mrs. Cheng stepped out. She was not dressed for the cold. She had a coat over a nightgown and the kind of face that has been crying and then decided to stop and then found the decision too difficult to maintain. They stood on the sidewalk. "I didn't know," she said, "how you lived." "Your father and I. We assumed that if you were alive, you were—" She stopped. "There is no version of that sentence that doesn't end badly." He waited. "You were on that straight for 6 years," she said. "Before that—" "Before that? Other streets." "We didn't look soon enough." "No." She flinched. He had not meant it harshly. He had meant it the way his master had taught him to mean things, accurately, without performance. "I want you to come home," she said. "Not for the family. For you. Because you are my son, and you are sleeping in a hotel, and I can't—" Her voice broke. She did not repair it this time. "I can't do it. I cannot know you exist and not—" He reached into his coat pocket, brought out the longevity lock. She stopped breathing. The lock was small, tarnished silver, the chain tangled in itself, engraved in the center with a child's birth date and 2 characters that meant safe return. Around the edge, the kind of careful filigree work that parents commission when they are afraid and want to make the fear into something beautiful. "Where did you find this?" she whispered. "Suji's room," he said. "In the drawer." He held it out. She took it, held it in both hands, the way you hold something that weighs more than it weighs. "Lin Lin," she said. The name. He had not known the name. "She died at 4, Mrs. Cheng said. "Fever. A very fast one. The doctor said a lot of things." She pressed the lock to her sternum. "We buried her with this. I put it on her myself.
I wanted her to have... She stopped. I wanted her to have something from home. He looked at the lock in her hands, looked at the car, looked at the hotel entrance where May was standing in the light with her thermos, watching but not intervening. Suji dug it up, Mrs. Cheng said. It was not a question. Yes. When? I don't know. Long enough ago that the dirt had dried on it.
She closed her fist around it. Come home, she said, not performing it this time, just asking. He looked at her. He looked at the thing his master had said once about the questions you ask when you already know the answer. You're not looking for the answer. You're building up the nerve to act on it. He picked up his bag. Part 8. The Accounting. He came back to the house, not triumphantly, not on condition. He simply came back because leaving had answered the question he had needed answered, and the answer was, this is the only place, right now, that might become something. The household adjusted, not overnight, not painlessly. Mr. Chung, who had a face like a locked room, spent 3 days not speaking directly to him, and then one morning appeared at the breakfast table and said, Huru says the site will be operational by the 15th. The recovery contract has been executed. He picked up his newspaper. Thank you. Bofan ate his congee. You're welcome, he said. Lan, the eldest, the watchful one, stopped by his room on a Thursday afternoon. She did not knock. She stood in the open doorway and looked at the room with the expression of someone running a private calculation. I was 18, she said. I went abroad. A football match. On the way back, I got on a plane with a... She stopped. When I got home, I found something in my coat pocket that I hadn't put there. A peach pit, carved with a ward. She looked at him. That was before you came here. He looked up from his book. I know, he said. You've been... My master knew your family's situation. He had me check on you periodically, indirectly. She let this settle. Then, how many times? 4. The plane, an incident in your office in 2019, a car on the Chang'an Road in winter. He paused. And once I simply followed you home because the chi was very wrong that day and I couldn't tell from the compass what it was going to do. She looked at him for a long time.
Then she reached into her pocket and brought out a card. A bank card. She set it on the shelf. He looked at it. For services rendered, she said. I don't need over 10 years, she said. 4 incidents. She met his eyes. What is your rate? He picked up the card, put it back in her hand, folded her fingers over it. Come back, he said, when you have something you actually need. She was quiet. Then she said, What's wrong with me now? The chi. Nothing. Tell me. He looked at her. Your chi is cautious. It's been cautious for a long time. It's afraid of choosing wrong, so it delays. It protects you from loss by preventing gain. He looked back at his book. That's all. She left the card on the shelf. He left it there. The accounting of Suji took 3 more days. It came in pieces, the way accountings do. Not all at once, but as things surfaced. The housekeeper found that a piece of jewelry had been moved from Mrs. Cheng's room. Lon noticed a discrepancy in a household account. Mei Shi found, on her phone's deleted messages, a record of texts sent under her name that she hadn't sent. Short, casual, to her hiking friends, confirming plans she had already canceled. None of it was enormous. That was the design. Each piece alone could be excused, but they stacked. Bofan did not produce any of this. He had shown them the lock. He had told them where to find it. After that, he went back to his room and let the family be a family. He heard it through the walls. The sound of a family discovering something it does not want to be true. It does not sound like anger at first. It sounds like a long conversation that keeps stopping and restarting. It sounds like doors that close more firmly than usual. It sounds like Mrs. Chung going very quiet, which was, he had learned, more significant than any loudness. On the third day, Mr. Chung called Suji into the study. Bofan was not present for this conversation.
He heard, through the wall, that it was short. That evening, Suji appeared in the hall where Bofan was sitting with his compass, recalibrating the bearing that the house seemed to throw off every few days. Suji looked at him. He looked back. Suji's chi was something Bofan had no easy word for. It was the chi of a man standing on ground that is withdrawing under him, the specific quality of a certainty that has just been proven wrong. "Was it you," Suji said, "who told them?" "I showed them the lock," Bofan said. "Everything else they found themselves." Suji looked at the compass. "I built something here," Suji said, not angry, tired. "I know you think I didn't have the right to it, but I built it. It was real. Whatever my mother—" He stopped. "I am not responsible for what my mother did." "No," Bofan said. "You're not." Suji's eyes were bright. "But you're not going to say that mattered." "It matters," Bofan said. "What you built is real. What your mother did is also real. They don't cancel each other out." He set the compass down. "I don't hate you." "You don't have to," Suji said. "I'm leaving either way." He turned. "Suji." He stopped. "The chi around your east side is clear," Bofan said. "Clearer than it's been since I got here. Whatever direction you go, it won't drag." Suji stood in the hall for a moment. His back was to Bofan. Then he walked away. Bofan listened to the sound of his footsteps going up the stairs, then coming down with a bag, then crossing the entrance hall, then the door. He's not wrong, Bofan thought. That is the honest conclusion. He built something real. His mother stole something, and he built on what was stolen, and 23 years of construction does not disappear because the ground was wrong. He loved the people in this house. You cannot manufacture love. You can manufacture circumstances for it, but the love itself, if it came. He opened the compass. North was off by 2 degrees. He noted it. Some things you correct. Some things you note and live with. Part 9. The Meal. Meishi knocked at 7. "Dinner," she said through the door. "Coming." He came out. She was waiting in the hall with the expression she usually had before meals, slightly braced, like someone walking towards something unpredictable. "It's just us tonight," she said. "Lan is in Shanghai. Dad's still in his study." She paused. Mom asked the kitchen to make soup. "What kind?" "The kind that takes 4 hours." She looked at him. "She started it this morning." He walked with her to the dining room. Mrs. Chung was already there. She had set the table herself. He could tell because the placement was slightly different from the housekeeper's arrangement. Less formal, closer together. 3 place settings. She was carrying a pot from the kitchen. It was too heavy for her, and she knew it, and she did not ask for help. He stepped in and took it from her without asking. She let him. They sat down. It was not comfortable exactly. Mrs. Chang asked him twice if he needed more, and he said no, and she gave him more anyway. He ate it. Meishi told a story about something that had happened at her friend's apartment that ended in 3 people stuck in an elevator for 2 hours. Mrs. Chang laughed. A real one. He did not speak much. He was not required to. That was something he had not expected, to be in a room with people who did not require him to perform ease, who simply ate. At some point during the meal, Mrs. Chang said,
My husband wants to discuss your living arrangement. The first floor room is fine. He wants to discuss it, she said, not settle it. He's bad at discussing, you may have noticed. I noticed. He'll be better at it next week. She served him more soup. He's still upset about the Shen Yang situation, not at you, at himself. He should have seen it. He couldn't have, Beaufon said. The man was very careful. My husband thinks he should be able to see everything. No one can see everything. He paused. I can't see my own future. She looked at him, a long look, the kind that was trying to memorize something. Lin would have liked you, she said. He looked at his bowl. She was 4, he said. She would have liked anyone who sat still long enough for her to show them something. Mrs. Cheng was quiet. She liked to show people things, Beaufon said. I know from the qi. The way it's arranged in her room, it clusters near the window. Children who like to share things always... He stopped. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's welcome. It's welcome, Mrs. Cheng said, quickly. Then, again, steadier. It's welcome. Mei Shi pushed a bowl of fruit to the center of the table. He took a piece. Dinner continued. Part 10. The Question. He asked it on a Tuesday morning, not planned, not positioned. He was carrying his compass through the entrance hall, and Mr. Cheng was putting on his coat, and the question arrived before he had decided whether to ask it. Who do you choose? Beaufon said. If you had to. Mr. Cheng paused with one arm in the sleeve. The first night, Beaufon said. I asked that question. You never answered. Mr. Cheng finished putting on his coat, straightened the collar, turned. You, he said. Not elaborated, not softened. But it took you... Yes, it took me. Mr. Cheng looked at him with the expression he reserved for things he did not want to examine in too much detail, because the examination would cost too much. I was afraid of you. Everything you know, the way you know it. I've spent my life in systems, finance, infrastructure, things that can be verified. You walk into my house and you know things about my daughter and my project and my dead child, and you know them through... He stopped. I was afraid of what it meant. It doesn't mean anything, Beaufon said. It's information. It arrives. What you do with it is yours. I understand that now. You chose him for 23 years.
I raised him for 23 years. There's a difference. Mr. Cheng picked up his briefcase. The choosing, the actual choosing, I never had to do until you arrived. He looked at Beaufon directly. And then I chose wrong. Twice. Before I chose right. Beaufon was quiet. The room on the second floor, Mr. Cheng said. East wing. It gets better light. He walked toward the door. May can help you move your things today if you want. He left. Beaufon stood in the entrance hall. The compass was warm from his pocket. He held it in both hands, the right, the working one, and the left, the one that remembered being broken, and felt the bearings settle. North. Part 11. The Bell. 3 weeks later, his master came. Shen Sui Wei arrived on a Sunday, unannounced, the way he arrived everywhere. He was 70 now, thin the way old men get when they stop being interested in accumulation, with eyes that looked at things longer than most people were comfortable with. Beaufon met him at the gate.
Shen looked at the house, then at Beaufon. You look rested, Shen said. I look the same. You look rested. Shen walked past him toward the door. Show me the house. He showed him the house. Shen walked through each room with the careful pace of a man taking a reading. He stopped in the entrance hall, looked at the ceiling, looked at the placement of the furniture, made a sound. This room held a bad balance for a long time, Shen said. There was a child buried in the wrong place, Beaufon said. Not literally, conceptually. Shen nodded. And now? Better, still settling. They walked to the garden. The koi were calm. The water was clear. Shen sat on the stone bench and looked at the fish. Your mother, Shen said. She knows. That you sent me to watch over her family? Yes. She has opinions about it? She has questions. She hasn't asked them yet. Shen looked at the fish. She was kind to you when you were young. She doesn't remember because she didn't know you were hers.
But she was kind. Bo Fan sat on the bench beside him. Tell me, he said. She used to bring food to the shelter on Wulong Road, Shen said. You were there for 2 months before the man who ran the shelter sold the building. She brought dumplings every Thursday. You ate them. He did not remember this. He would have been 8. I chose her family specifically, Shen said, to watch over, because I had watched them for years. Not just what happened to them, what they did. He looked at Bo Fan. I have been watching over this family for 20 years. I needed someone younger, someone whose chi could pass through without alarming the balance. So I found you. You found me because I was nearly trafficked. I found you because I had been looking for you, and you happened to also be nearly trafficked, which accelerated the schedule. Bo Fan looked at him. You were looking for me. Yes. Why? Shen reached into his coat, brought out a small object, a bronze bell, twin to the one on Bo Fan's keychain, but older. The crack on this one was on the other side. Because you are what comes after me, Shen said, and I needed to know you were in the right place before I... He stopped. Bo Fan looked at his master. Shen's chi was quiet, quieter than he had ever seen it. The kind of quiet that is not peace, but completion. The kind that says, the river has reached the sea. How long? Bo Fan said. I don't need you to count it for me, Shen said. I know. Shen, I have had a very full life, Shen said. I have taught one student. He is sitting beside me on a stone bench in a garden that is beginning, just beginning, to balance properly. The fish are well. He looked at the koi. I am satisfied. Bo Fan could not speak. Shen reached over and patted his hand. The gesture was brief, practical. Your own chi is clearing, Shen said. You know that? The wall is not gone, but it has shifted.
You will see further than I did. A pause. You have also, at last, started to care about things, which means the seeing will fail you in the ways it always fails people who care. This is not bad. It means you are living. He stood. He handed Bo Fan the second bell. Don't lose both of them, Shen said. He walked back toward the gate. Bo Fan stood. Where are you going? Home. Shen did not turn around. I will have dinner. I will sleep. In the morning I will begin the last formation I have been meaning to complete for 30 years. A pause. Come visit when you have time. I am usually at the table by 8. He went through the gate. Bo Fan stood in the garden. The koi moved in their slow circles. The water was very clear. In his right hand, the original bell. In his left, the new one. He held them both. The left hand hurt a little. The cold in the old break, arriving and departing like a tide that had learned his schedule. He stood until the sun moved. Epilogue. The morning formation. He woke at 5. This was not new. He had been waking at 5 since he was 16 and had learned that the hour before dawn was when the chi of any place was most legible, before the human activity of the day stirred everything into noise. He dressed, took his leather roll, took his compass, took both bells.
He went to the room on the second floor, east wing, that now held his things. He stood at the window. The city was gray and soft in the pre-dawn. Below, the garden, the koi still, the stone bench where he had sat with Shen. He opened his compass. The bearing was steady. Something about it was different this morning. The needle's resting place a fraction different than it had been for the past weeks. He noted it, filed it. Behind him, his door opened. He did not turn around. "I heard you get up," Mei-shi said. She sounded still half asleep.
She was carrying the same thermos she always carried. He did not know where she kept getting hot tea at 5 in the morning and had decided not to investigate, because some systems were best not examined. She sat on the floor because she always sat on the floor when she came to his room, and he had stopped finding this strange. "What does the compass say?" she said. "North." "That's all?" "North is sufficient." She poured tea into the cap, left it on the windowsill beside him. He picked it up, drank. It was the same tea it always was. Whatever her grandmother had put in it, it tasted like something that had been carefully passed down. "Shen called," she said, "last night. Did you know he knew my mother?" "Yes." "He's coming to dinner on Sunday." "I know." "How?" He said nothing. She made a sound that was not quite a sigh and not quite a laugh, a sound he had learned meant she had accepted that he was not going to explain. They stood at the window while the sky turned.
The city came to life in stages. 1 light, then 3, then the sound of the first bus on the far avenue. Somewhere below, the kitchen was starting, the smell of it reaching them eventually through the cold glass. Stock, beginning. The compass was still. He held both bells in his left hand. They did not ring. They sat against his palm, warm from the pocket, small and complete. The bearing did not move. Far in the garden, the koi began their first slow circles of the day. He watched. He watched for a long time, until the light was full, and the compass was certain, and the tea was gone, and the day had declared itself. Then he put the compass away. And the bells, both of them, he held 1 moment longer in his broken and healed left hand, feeling their weight, which was not the weight of metal, but the weight of everything a person passes to another person when they have decided the time has come. He put them in his pocket, went to breakfast. The end.